Next on Rugby Wrap-Up, Houston SaberCats head coach Paul the Cactus Emerick and Rugby United New York's The Butcher, Dylan Fawsitt.
Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by The Balanced Palate, nutrition for peak performance, and the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street, the world's best rugby pub.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Rugby Wrap-Up. We are at our satellite studio, the Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pub in New York City on West 36th Street. I'm Matt McCarthy, and I have the pleasure of having Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News calling in from Halifax. It's Halifax, Bryan. It's not Halifax. Just kidding. It's Halifax. Welcome.
Thanks, Matt. Always a pleasure to be on the Rugby Wrap-Up anytime.
All right, brother, just not to confuse everybody, we do have a full Major League Rugby segment with analysis, predictions, highlights, etc. But this is one that we pulled off separately because we have interviews with Houston SaberCats, new Houston SaberCats head coach Paul the Cactus Emerick of USA Rugby Lore, and Dylan the Butcher Fawsitt of Rugby United New York, the straw that stirs the Roosters drink. But let's catch up with Paul Emerick first. I want you to see this.
So Paul Emerick, new head coach of Houston SaberCats, just got your first game under the belt. What was it like?
Well, yeah, obviously not the result we wanted, but you know, we're a couple games left in the season. We're going to try and right the ship and try and give them hell.
You know, tough situation to come in, lousy conditions on the road. Still a pretty respectable score. It's only 3 scores.
Yeah, you know, we're not far off, and I know we've been saying that all year, but. I was real happy with the boys to, you know, we're down to 13 men and they held fast for those 10 minutes. And, you know, New York earned their tries, but good news is we've got plenty to work on next week.
So fixable things?
Yeah, it's just attention to detail, you know, body height into the clear outs, speed of the ruck, all very fixable things, but when we're doing those things well, we create good go forward and some line breaks, so you know, we'll be focusing on that this week.
Any shot at dusting off the cleats?
Thanks for the heroes call, and no chance. That ship sailed and is sunk somewhere out in the Pacific.
Did it sink off of Coney Island?
It may have. I'll grab my scuba gear and check next week.
All right, Coach. Best of luck going forward.
All right. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Pretty cool, right? I mean, he's got his hands full, but he's up for the task at hand. He's maintained his sense of humor, which is important, and they've got some talent, so I think it's good. I mean, he's loose in a good way, too, which helps.
It's been quite the eventful week for Paul, but he's an experienced guy. He's been around. He's done his Eagles thing. He's played professional rugby, so he knows what the scoop is out there. So, you know, we'll see how it goes, whether he sticks around. They get a new director of rugby, but good opportunity for Paul anyways. Might freshen things up in the final weeks of the season.
Yeah, Paul's a different kind of guy than Justin Fitzpatrick was. Paul's a back. He's also a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve. He brings that to the table, and that's not a knock on Justin Fitzpatrick. He's a quality rugby guy with a ton of experience, a wealth of experience. He'll land on his feet elsewhere, but sometimes change is just needed. But at that post-match function with the SaberCats being hosted by Rooney, there was no woe is me. There was no head hanging down. They have an upbeat vibe there. Meanwhile, on the other side of the pitch, we had Dylan the Butcher Fawsitt standing there with me in the pouring rain. Here's what he had to say.
Dylan Fawsitt, big win for you guys at home under the not so friendly skies of Coney Island, but a big win nonetheless. What are you taking out of this one?
Sure, this is fine Irish weather, you know, so I think the boys really stood up, you know, they played the conditions well, you know. It was a fine Houston performance, you know, they're tough, it's something to prove, you know, after having a testing week themselves, but, you know, really proud of my boys, like, they dug deep and we got a good result.
No easy match is an easy match, and no match is a given right now, and you guys are fighting for your playoff lives.
Yeah, absolutely, you know, it's just taking 1 week at a time, you know, we can't look past the next week, you know, we can't get complacent at all, and, you know, it's been a phenomenal year, and, you know, it's credit to the MLR and credit to all teams in the competition. Like, it's just fantastic for viewing, and long may it rain.
So, yeah, you said it's a little bit of the Irish weather here, but you guys, you're familiar with bad weather. You've played on the road, you've played at home, now you got the last couple of matches at home. What's the most important thing for you guys?
Just to stay focused. You know, it's been a testing year. You know, there's a good few bangs. We've got to just make sure we win the recovery, you know, and come out guns blazing next week.
Are you going for the tight 5 try tile?
we'll do our best. We've got fine tight 5 forwards, so you know we all have that in our minds. But like, it's just about getting the win for the team.
All right. Well, thanks for your patience and standing out in the conditions here, and continued success.
McCarthy, I know you love it as well. Cheers.
See you later.
You gotta love the Butcher. He plays 90 minutes of rugby in an 80-minute match. He's exhausted. He's soaking wet. He's covered in tire pellets from the turf field, yet he's out there taking the time to talk to me, the only 2 nitwits left out there, and as he aptly put it, in the Irish weather. But, you know, that's what makes him the Butcher.
Yeah, he's an inspirational character, Mr. Fawsitt. You never hear anybody say a bad word about that guy, whether it's about, you know, rugby or off the pitch. So, you know, really important to have those kind of guys leading the way at New York.
Yeah, obviously you've never been at the bottom of a ruck with the Butcher, because there are a lot of people that would have very few kind things to say about him.
Well, as a former scrum half, I'm quite happy to say I've never been at the bottom of a ruck with Mr. Fawsitt. I'm not sure I would have come out the other side in one piece.
Yeah, I think that's a new show on Netflix, At the Bottom of the Ruck with Mr. Fawsitt. But in all seriousness, you know, this accessibility of the players and the coaches with guys like us and fans is a very cool component of this league, and it's very smart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who are we? Just some guys talking into a microphone right now. Absolutely. Everybody's been great. The way they interact with the fans, sticking around after the game, taking pictures, signing autographs. I spoke to Nick Feeks from NOLA just a couple days ago. Great guy. You know, look for that interview online. All these guys have been super. There's no divas or anything like that. So it really is terrific for Major League Rugby.
Yeah, Nick Feeks. A player that Steve Lewis, the great Steve Lewis, highlighted as a player to watch before the season started, because he coached him with the U.S. All-Americans. You know, this guy's the real deal. He can play fly half, he can play wing, he can play center. He's definitely going to be on the Eagles' radar.
Yeah, and he's got a silly accent. He's from Australia, so he's quite the character, well-spoken guy, certainly very talented. So one to watch for sure, on and off the pitch.
That accent blends right in with all the other Aussies for the NOLA Gold, including their head coach, Nola Nate Osborne.
Yeah, it's like the United Nations down there. Chileans, you know, New Zealanders, Americans, there's Cajuns down there, so you never know what you're going to hear when you ring New Orleans.
You forgot Canadians.
Well, you know, we kind of blend in wherever we go. You know, you'll notice the Canadians will adopt the local accent within a few minutes of hanging out. You know, they just want to get along with everybody.
So you think that accent blends in when you say oot and hoos? It doesn't. But unfortunately, my friend, we are oot of time. But Bryan, in all seriousness, I appreciate your patience and putting up with all the shenanigans.
Thanks, Matt. Always a pleasure.
And on that note, on behalf of Mr. Bryan Ray from America's Rugby News, calling in from Halifax, Nova Scotia, I'm Matt McCarthy at the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street in New York City. For Rugby Wrap Up, signing off.